A man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman.
Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive on something a little different. And,
Definitely interesting.
yeah, I mean, the words woman and impersonation, you hear them all the time and you kind of think,
You think you know what they mean.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
But then when you really start to look at it,
Uh-huh.
you've got this definition from Wikipedia, and then you've got a pretty strong statement here from the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. And then,
Right.
we're also taking a look at just the whole concept of impersonation in general.
Impersonation, yeah.
And it's
That's a lot.
yeah, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really interesting is how we throw around these words woman, impersonation, man, without really stopping to think about, like, all of the baggage, all of the assumptions, like, baked into them, So we're going to kind of unpack all of that for you today, starting with,
The basics.
yeah.
Yeah, the basics.
What is a woman?
Right, exactly. And Wikipedia says a woman is an adult female human.
Right.
Short, sweet, to the point.
Straightforward.
Yeah. Are we done?
Well, I mean, if only it were that simple, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you think about it, even just historically speaking, what it's meant to be a woman has changed so much.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think about, like, back in the 19th century,
Uh-huh.
a woman's worth was pretty much entirely tied to, whether or not she could have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness, we sort of moved past that.
Yeah, yeah.
But it makes you wonder.
Yeah, where are we going to be?
Exactly, in 100 years.
Yeah, in 100 years, what's the definition going to be?
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this definition that is simple on the surface, but clearly has some depth to it.
Layers.
Layers and layers.
Yeah, and then we bring in this statement from Mike Johnson,
Right.
the House Speaker. He says, a man is a man, and a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman.
Right, and this is where things start to get a little bit
Complicated, exactly.
Yeah.
Because his statement, it's not coming out of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
This is a perspective, a viewpoint that sees gender as fixed, binary. You're either one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that perspective is being, challenged. Yeah, exactly. By folks who see gender as much more fluid, much more of a
spectrum.
A spectrum, right? And you can see how this ties back to the whole definition of woman. Some people see it as a very clear-cut thing.
Black and white.
Black and white, whereas others see much more gray area.
Right.
So
yeah, so it's interesting because the definition itself, doesn't really touch on any of that.
Well, right.
It's just
biology.
Yeah, it's just biology, but there are definitely
social
and
societal
implications. Thank you.
So that's woman. Now we're bringing in impersonation.
Right.
And the dictionary defines this as an act of pretending to be another person.
Pretty straightforward, right?
On the surface, yeah.
But how does that play into this conversation about woman?
Okay, so think about it this way.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe, as Mike Johnson does, that gender is something that you're born with and it can't be changed,
right,
then someone who is assigned male at birth but is living as a woman could be seen through that very specific lens as
impersonating a woman.
Impersonating a woman, exactly.
Interesting.
Right. And so suddenly this word impersonation, it's not just about, putting on a funny voice or wearing a costume.
Right.
It gets tied up in these much bigger ideas about identity. Yeah.
Okay, so we're seeing how all of this is kind of like intertwined.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to make this even more concrete.
Tangible.
Yeah, tangible, thank you. One of the sources actually talks about police impersonation.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it even goes so far as to say, like, the uniform is a big part of it.
Right.
So, I mean, why even bring that up?
Well, I think it's because it forces us to think about this concept of intent.
Okay.
Someone who puts on a police uniform, they're usually doing it for a reason. To deceive, right? To gain something, maybe authority, maybe trust that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Right.
So it's not just about looking like a cop.
It's about why you're doing it.
It's the why, exactly, that makes it impersonation.
So that adds a whole other layer to it, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's not just about appearance. It's about, like you said, intention.
Right. And this is where I think we get to, like, the heart of what we want you to think about as you're processing all of this.
Yeah.
If we bring this back to the conversation about gender and someone is, presenting as a woman, what might their intent be?
Right.
I mean, is it always deception? Or are there other reasons why someone might present as a gender that's different from the one they were assigned at birth,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
Is it about expressing their internal sense of self? Is it about, finding a way to live more authentically?
Right, right.
These are all really important questions to consider.
Wow, yeah, we went from adult female human
Yeah,
to
deep fast.
whoa.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot more here than I think we initially realized.
I think that's the thing with language, right?
Yeah.
It seems so simple on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
But the words we use
Yeah.
to define ourselves, to define other people,
They carry so much.
baggage,
Well,
weight, thank you.
Yeah.
Historical weight, social weight.
And those assumptions can be
Yes.
really
Dangerous.
Yes, yeah.
So, as you continue to learn and explore these really complex topics of gender, identity, impersonation, just remember to,
Think critically.
think critically, question the assumptions that are baked into the language that we use.
Mm-hmm.
Because those assumptions, they can really shape how we see the world and how we treat each other.
So true.
Really important stuff.
Yeah, that's all the time we have for this deep dive, but thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for joining us.
And we hope you keep thinking about these ideas,
Absolutely.
because they're important.
They are.
And they matter.
They do.
All right, we'll see you next time.
See ya, honey.